Everyone who did volunteer to come here, it is because we naturally hold a higher frequency in our energetic grids. And this then allows us to radiate that frequency out, which does assist Mother Earth as well as all of humanity in their evolutionary process. Your soul has the potential to get an emotional imprint. So when we experience something in a past life and it imprints the soul, now when your soul comes down into this physical reality, that imprint then vibrates into your energetic grids. Your timeline is ever changing, but your emotions control the timeline that you exist on. There's a process of love, and something that you truly love is always going to be in alignment until it becomes an attachment. We collectively agree to this consciousness or this now moment, but it's only for the now moment when we come together. The second that we step back from one another, we go back into our own individual timeline bubbles. Our manifestations become totally different.
Today, we're going to dive deeper into the topic of ascension. We're going to talk about how this process of ascension is happening on the planet right now, how the timeline's accelerated. Many of you are probably experiencing a lot of ascension symptoms with all these aurora borealis we've been getting. Things are just quickening. I am excited to have today Danielle Lipton, who is Galactic Channeler and Ascension Guide. She actually wrote a book called Ascension Guide, which layers a lot of these topics on what's happening on the planet right now and how we can activate extrasensory abilities that we already have. Welcome, Danielle. Really happy to have you and explore all these rabbit holes. As you are experiencing a lot of these energies today, what really excites your soul? What is happening right now for humanity? What really excites you as someone who is understanding this process?
The biggest thing that's the most exciting is really the activation of our extrasensory abilities. Now, each and every one of us has 365 extrasensory abilities that we are able to turn on with our will and with our consciousness. The more focus we start to place on the extrasensory abilities, and this even includes just having a magical mind, just going into nature and fine-tuning your biofield with Mother Earth and the rhythm of all the plants and the frequencies, and just really allowing yourself to learn how to harness different energetic castings. So we're able to send love and to send energy from our energetic grids. And the more we start to do this type of work, the more it puts us in alignment to turning on those extrasensory abilities.
So why is it important? What role do we play versus what's happening to the Mother Earth? My understanding is we're really here to also support her evolution, and she is from puberty moving into adolescence. How can we support her? Why are we here? Why we volunteered for this earth?
Everyone who did volunteer to come here, it is because we naturally hold a higher frequency in our energetic grids. And this then allows us to radiate that frequency out, which does assist Mother Earth as well as all of humanity in their evolutionary process. These are normally called star seeds, which many of us, even your people watching the show, we must feel it inside that we came from the stars and we have family up there. The more and more we start to dive into these topics and we start to pull higher frequencies into our mind, our bodies, and our spirits, it then allows for a more rapid evolution to take place on Mother Earth herself. Yes, Mother Earth is very important because we are evolving her as well. But every single human being is important in the sense because their consciousnesses are all intertwined energetically with Mother Earth throughout time and space. So when we speak about Mother Earth advancing her consciousness, her power is so great that she can change the way people think in the blink of an eye. And we can see that when it comes to different types of earth shifts. So when she summons an earth shift, it changes the way people's focus is. And that is her ability. That's one of her God-given powers. Now, the more we start to tune into the earth frequency, we are able to energetically cast different frequencies into her, which is why it's so important to go back to nature, spend time with the plants, thank Mother Earth, bless Mother Earth, tell her you love her, because all of that positive emotion that you send to Mother Earth, it actually radiates a toroidal field or a vortex energetic, which then in turn, it starts a synchronization process in the hearts of all of humanity in the surrounding local areas. This then allows there to be more peace and cohesion in the heart frequencies of men.
So you said most of us volunteered, and this is specifically on the starseed level. What about some other beings on Earth, many planetarian type of beings? Not everyone is a starseed.
Many of us starseeds, let me rephrase that. The individuals here who are not starseeds or who do not relate to being starseeds, many of them, dear ones, are interfrequential beings. Those interfrequential beings, they may not know that they are still extraterrestrial souls in their nature. They may just feel as if they are human because they came from the inner realities. Those individuals are still being guided and supported from the stars. We, the star people, work with both interdimensional as well as extra dimensional beings with higher frequentials as well.
So that was a channeling I felt that came through really fast. Tell us, what's that source of channeling that you connect to? Is there a specific group console that you work with?
So I work primarily with the star people. The star people are a group of different races from different planets, interdimensionals, extra dimensionals, as well as high frequency beings. And they all come together to support humanity in their growth and evolution. That's one of the primary focuses of my team as well as me is ascension and activation of the extrasensory abilities.
When you and I met, you were saying how they were also training you to be able to deliver that for others. So tell us a little more about that training. What was the purpose of it, and how do you deliver that to others?
The training is overcoming every single emotion code that you've ever experienced in your life for the most part. And what that looks like is it's very deep. It's just very deep. And then also diving into different emotion codes from humanity. So what I personally specialized in is attachment removal. Attachments are energetic beings that latch on to the outside of the energy field and they trigger different emotion codes inside of us. So I was guided through an entire process to learn all of these different emotion codes as well as different experiential attachment frequencies. Now, an experiential is any experience that you have when it's, of course, it's negative because we're only clearing the dark ones, but we have it over and over again. So it could be something simple as stubbing your toe, or it could be something a little more serious. So they took me through a whole process of learning all of these different emotion codes and then sensing them in other individuals when I'm in their location.
Can someone learn how to remove it themselves as they are aware of these emotion codes? I'm also doing a lot of multidimensional clearing with crystalline soul healing modality that I do, which is essentially a template. A lot of these emotions are carried through lifetimes. Sometimes we collect this baggage of heavy rocks, so we carry them with us until we're ready to get rid of it because it just gets too heavy and release it. And I believe this lifetime is really a lifetime of deep work where it's time to release and step up.
That's exactly the same thing. So your soul has the potential to get imprinted. And this is what the star people refer to an emotional imprint. So when we experience something in a past life and it imprints the soul, now when your soul comes down into this physical reality, that imprint then vibrates into your energetic grids, which opens a door in the star field, allowing that particular type of attachment to latch onto you. And then We have to remove the attachment off the field. We close the star door, but then we have to go in and we have to recalibrate that emotion. And recalibration of those emotions is really coming to peace with having that experience that generated that emotion. Even if you don't know what the experience is, we still have to come to peace inside of our heart to just allow the emotion to wash through us, so we're no longer holding on to it.
Sometimes people carry them over their heart as heart walls. And I see them when I do Kundalini activation work in my workshops. I see them as like these cantaloupes, almost energetic knots in people's fields. And what's incredible, sometimes they're so far out. They're not even on the body. They handful distance. And I see how these different intertwined energies work within the sacred geometry of the person. So maybe talk a little more on your understanding of the divine blueprint, the sacred geometry of who we are.
The sacred geometry, it's in every single living and non-living thing in the physical reality. If we take a strand of DNA and we slice it directly in half, you're going to notice a flower of life image. That's actually the image right behind my head. It's a flower of life. And so that's in the DNA of all living things. Now, when we start to pull apart the sacred geometry, we see the Fibonacci spiral as well as phi. Phi is a mathematical ratio. These two ratios, Fibonacci and phi, Fibonacci is the feminine energetic systems, and the phi ratio stands for the masculine energetic systems. These two things in combination make up the platonic solids, which then generate all of existence in the physical reality. So when we start to talk about masculine and feminine energetics, each human being embodies both, because we're in a duality form of the simulation, is what the star people usually refer to it as. Now, we have to realize that we have both inside of us. So we have the feminine and we have the masculine. When we put them together, it allows for a yin-yang type of energetic system to be fully embodied, and it allows us to express very differently, which is all about the raising of consciousness. The reason that we were given both the masculine and the feminine was actually to go through this process of ascension very rapidly. Because when you have both, it allows for multiple experiences and expressions to fully manifest on the planet, allowing Mother Earth a greater potentiality. See, the Earth and the human consciousness grids, we have to go through every single experience in its totality for the most part in order to allow the planet to evolve. That's the reason why we see so many people on the planet right now. It's specifically because every experience or every potential must be manifest before the entire, it's like the solar system, but it really is the planetary system, the star people are saying, is allowed to spontaneously evolve, because ascension will actually happen in the blink of an eye. It does not take hundreds of thousands of years. When we do speak about different solar energetics and having the impact on humanity and the biological form as well, we must also take into consideration that there will be a form of transformation that occurs very rapidly. And the process that we are each going through right now, that sun looks white. And because it's white, it's no longer yellow. We know that it's raising in its frequency. And we know, according to different ancient texts as well, that coronal mass ejections or solar flashes has an effect on the way people think. Now, raising into 5D frequency and activating the crystalline DNA subsystems is changing the perception. So 5D is really a perception. So it's a way that you see the reality. It's a viewpoint above time and space, which then allows you access into your entire lifetime, so you could see the entire thing at once. However, in 5D, when you're at that level, you then start to activate your binary codex as well as your quantum codex. Your quantum codex is any and all parallel reality lifetimes that you experience, and being able to summon or pull different knowledge from all the parallel versions of yourself. That's what's happening. It's the most important thing.
I started writing a book, and I know you have the book, and the title literally just came yesterday, becoming master quantum creator. And I think as you were just saying that, I was feeling that. And it's all really going beyond the 5D, but I agree with you. Maybe in that perceptual reality, we just have more access to all the other dimensions and infinite information. But we stepping into becoming multidimensional creators and stepping into a divine blueprint of the possibilities. What's your feel on where this ascension process is going for different timelines? Because I see potentialities, and I'm sure you do too, but right now nothing is very settled. It's hard to really see into the future as everything is shifting so quickly, but there's still this, I would say, AI timeline, which I also see happening in parallel with organic timeline, where people are moving more into the organic ascension. Curious to hear your perspective on that.
The way the star people explain this is like this. Each person is in their own timeline bubble. Now, each of us is going to be manifesting our timeline depending on our frequency that we are holding. Your frequency is determined by your thoughts and your emotions blended together, as well as your memory grids. Now, we take a look at something called the Mandela effect. The Mandela effect shows us how two individuals can look at history and they could remember history totally different. So that shows us that two people can be existing in one simulation, yet they could experience a different past. So this is the way time actually works. If you took a mother and a child and you put matching watches, let's say they were quartz, so they ticked, but they ticked forever. You put the watches on their hand. Now you waited, say 10 or 20 years goes by, you're going to see two different times because the way that body is flowing through time and space is totally different per person. Now, we can also see this when we talk about human-based travel amongst the stars. We'll take it from the perspective of we've seen different movies, and different movies show us that different planets are at a different spin. They're at different frequencies because of their length and distance from the sun and the rotation around the sun. So that means that time for them works very differently. So now what would happen theoretically if you took a human body and you put it on one of those planets? It would start to age differently. So now from that idea, that concept, we can determine that what if time and space doesn't flow the way that we've been told? It's not really linear. It's what you experience that counts. We take a look at what's called shenning. Shenning is when your highest excitement gets activated. You tend to be flowing through time at a more rapid rate. And that's because you're very happy and joyous and bubbly. Now, what happens when we're very sad? Time seems to drag. That's only a perception. Now, scientifically speaking, we're aware that the happier you are, the less you age. So that shows us that we only age according to the amount of time we perceive to spend. So if your time is going very rapidly, which is 5D, then your body isn't aging as fast. When you're very sad or dense or heavy, then you're going to age more rapidly in your perception. Time and space isn't what we see it. So when we speak about switching timelines, this has to be taken into consideration because your time and your manifestations are encoded by your frequency. Everyone else is different. We collectively agree to this consciousness or this now moment, but it's only for the now moment when we come together. The second that we step back for one another, we go back into our own individual timeline bubbles. Our manifestations become totally different. Now, we also have what's known as a power of three. When three or more people, it has to be of opposite polarity gender, so two girls and a guy or two guys and a girl. When three people come together, we can make shifts to the entire human consciousness grid, which allows for the perception of multiple people in one moment to be activated into their timeline.
The Trinity aspect makes sense, but I haven't heard anyone describe the ability of the Trinity to actually move timelines. The first episode that I recorded on this podcast is with Alicia, and We experienced Iceland together for summer solstice last year. And it was three of us traveling together for about 10 days or so and experiencing different bubbles of reality. In Iceland, especially, it's a very magical place with a lot of mystical creatures. We experience a lot of time dilation. And I think now that you're bringing that up, I was like, yeah, there is something, it was magic with Trinity.
It's beautiful. Does Iceland have like the aurora borealis or a type of magnetism there? Because the star people are like, oh, Iceland, the aurora borealis.
The Northern Lights, of course, because it's so north. I did not see it because it was in the summertime. What I did experience is what's called white lights. The sun doesn't set. So summer solstice, so it starts pretty much now in June. Because of its proximity to the North Pole, it can be 11 o'clock at night and it's still light out. And like in Alaska, they have to shade the windows because your body in your circadian rhythm is not used to that. You still think it's light, so you keep on going until you crash.
What if, now this is just speculation at this point, but what if that location is a higher frequency? And you even said it, it's magical. So if it has more electrical magnetic because of the aurora borealis and it has more sunshine, what if 5D has more sunshine in your day? Therefore, it changes the flow of time on the entire planet.
The most magical places I've ever been to are the ones that are closer to the poles. So that would be New Zealand and Iceland. And in some ways, I felt they were very similar. So there's something to what you're saying. I don't know if they necessarily get a lot of light because actually it's the opposite. It's pretty cold there. The Icelandic people I talked to were complaining and saying how they always in the summertime go away somewhere to get more light because it's not enough sun. Aurora borealis mostly you can see in the winter. It's sometimes cloudy. You don't really see it often. There is something really magical about being on an island surrounded by water. It's very quiet. The energy is just very quiet. You don't feel that so much on the big land like in US, and I've experienced that as well at Azores, which is below Iceland, Portuguese islands. That whole line is very special. That's the Kundalini energy of the earth. It comes from the North Pole, goes through Iceland, through Azores, down to Canary Islands, and then it moves through the serpent into Turkey and then Tibet and Himalayas and Alaska, and it starts going down all the way to Patagonia. So it's horizontal and then it goes vertical through the Rocky Mountains. I've experienced a lot of interesting activations of Mother Earth throughout many years of Earth grid work that I've done. But Iceland and New Zealand were probably my most favorite.
Nice. You can actually summon the frequency of Iceland or New Zealand just from your chair. I had this whole download come through and it was on the pyramids. I've never been to the pyramid, but the star people took me when I closed my eyes and they said, all you have to do is you put your hand on the wall of the pyramid and just imagine that all of that knowledge and information is being downloaded into your energy field. And so I did it in my mind and it was like, wow. Then they were like, now that you've pulled in all the energy in the energy grids, just wait, because the second that you're in alignment to receive or unlock the knowledge, it will automatically be unlocked for you. You may start to get signs or synchronicities. You may start to see, you may watch a video or something may come up and it's, oh, the Egyptians knew this. And then it takes you down a whole path of learning all the knowledge. But you can do the same thing for any location code. So some people even talk about Sedona and how Sedona is very healing and cleansing. We could sit right here in our chair and we can absorb any frequency from Mother Earth. It's even stronger if you go put your feet on the ground outside and you summon the frequency that way, because then Mother Earth will actually assist in the frequency generation for you.
I am very much aware of this because I put specific grid through decade of work. And like you said, at any point I can connect to any of these locations. There's no really space and time. Everything is all here. And I actually heard today it's a really nice analogy about even the bang theory, which is of course created by masculine. And the title itself, the bang, we would call it the feminine would have called it more like the womb, but the bang started really from a small pea size matter that just exploded. We always connected because we're still within this small pea size, and the quantum entanglement of particles is well discussed by the scientific community, where you have one photon here and one that's many distances apart. And if you tickle or you start activating this photon, this one mirrors it. Therefore, we can always go to any of these places. We can connect and do distance healing to any location with any people, no matter where they are. And I'm sure, Danielle, you work with people around the world. I do too. And it's incredible how it works on Zoom. It doesn't matter whether they're in Australia.
It's
Yep.
global. Yeah. It doesn't even matter wherever they are. Now, what that reminds me of, right? Because when you talk about the Big Bang Theory and like that spark of life, is everything on the outside of us is a reflection of a frequency from the inside. Now, on the inside of our bodies, we can pull cerebral spinal fluid up. And then what it does is it triggers into the pineal gland and it generates a spark of life and it opens a pineal gland. Now, when we do that, it connects us into the spiritual realms. So the Big Bang Theory is showing us on the outside what happens on the inside of us when we connect. It's beautiful.
That is beautiful. I see that in breathworks practices I do or someone else does, or Kundalini activation work. We are constantly moving technology, this beautiful soft technology, not hard technology. It's so complex and beautiful. Like you were mentioning, I want to go back to what you mentioned about the masculine and feminine, because I do feel that is an important moment we can zoom in and look at it deeper, because there is this reshifting of masculine and feminine energies that are happening on earth right now. And it's been very patriarchal. That narcissistic old paradigm way of the patriarch is starting to dissipate. It's not fully gone. The feminine is rebalancing itself to meet it in the middle. How do you see that happening? And I'm curious also because you mentioned it's very human experience, your experience of how it is happening in other dimensions when it comes to gender.
So when we talk about masculine and feminine energetics, we have to recognize your chi energetic systems. It runs on the right hand side of your body. Those are electrical in their nature. They come up, the brain waves are electrical. Now, the feminine energetic system, it's heart based, it's emotion. And so we see the chi energetic system is coming back into alignment with the magnetics. This allows us to use our intuitions more. Now, when this process starts, once again, it's being guided by the sun, because the sun is also sending us magnetics as well as electrical from the sun. Those sun rays hit the surface, get absorbed by the plants, and then Mother Earth is giving us magnetics and electrical. So the effect it's having on us is it's changing us. Now, a logic-based mind, which is you have to get up in the morning, you have to take all these steps, make the money, pay the bills, all that stuff, that's very straight lined. It's linear thinking. It's electrical. It's masculine in its nature. The feminine energetic system is just coming into the heart and just knowing everything will always be, everything I need will always land at my feet. I don't have to worry. I don't have to panic. I just have to come into my heart. I have to shine love and light, and I just have to have faith and believe and have hope. The more we start to do that, it changes our magnetism, which then puts us on that timeline to allow that manifestation to come. But the more we start to step in and open the hearts and feel that love-based expression, that emotion, that magnetics, it radiates out. And then before you know it, everyone is showing more love to each other and just trusting and knowing that we'll be fine. We've seen this happen several times on this planet during certain catastrophes. I've seen it when I was younger. Things would happen, and then all of a sudden people would open their hearts and we would band together and we would tell each other everything's going to be all right. We're going to make it through this. And it was that love, that emotion that got us to the next level. So that's what we're seeing happening here, but it's not necessarily with a catastrophe. It's more with a spiritual movement, with people who are coming back inside, holding more love, even to the people who have wronged you. Forgive them. open your heart, send them love and light. We do this for Mother Earth. And all of this, it turns into an energetic casting. So in turn, the more love that you can send to every single thing in your reality, the more you're raising the frequency of that reality, the more the outside reality starts to reflect the feeling that's coming from inside of you. And then before you know it, the emotions control the extrasensory abilities. So the more heart-shaped love you can cast, the more you're going to start to activate these 5D extra senses.
Are there this type of magnetic electrical energy in other dimensions when you interact with the star beings and your console? Is there like a variation you experience of those frequencies there?
I've had so many different experiences with them, but my primary focus is in the physical reality. The learning each and every different emotion code has really been key for me. And I spend a lot of time diving into darkness. It's overcoming all of the darkness, and it's allowing me to act more and more as a transmutator for those energies. So I do know there is a whole range of things that I'm able to tune into, but right now they have me focusing primarily in the physical reality, and as well as a lot of downloads and a lot of knowledge and things of that nature.
That's great. I was trying to get to, are we copies of them in some ways? And I think we are. It's just different variation of those aspects of ourselves in those dimensional realities. And they too, I feel, experiencing these different polarities of the masculine, the feminine, or androgynous. When I tap into the Pleiadian frequency, it feels very androgynous to me, or Arcturian. But in some star systems, it's a little more, not polarized, but like more defined, I would say.
We also have to take into consideration, we take a look at the levels of consciousness of Earth. We do have 2D consciousnesses, the plant life. We have 3D, which is what many individuals are running. We also have 4D, 5D, and the star people are saying it goes up to about 7, but we've experienced a full rainbow body of light activation on the planet already. So that in itself shows us how one human consciousness brick, as well as Mother Earth's consciousness, it can embody several different levels of consciousness. So other planets do the same. So many individuals may take a look at Arcturus just as an example, and they may channel a 9th density Arcturian. Now, what I'm telling you is that there could potentially be different levels to their civilization. So some of the individuals could be in a lower density. That's okay too. All together as one collective, they are all above 5D. Many of the planets up there are above 5D, especially the ones that have the psionic abilities activated.
In my experiences, especially when I do QHHTs, which is quantum healing hypnosis, you take people into their past lives, what has been coming through my own visions, Arcturians, depending on which dimension they add, had different physical shape and height. So usually the ones in the higher dimensionalities are much taller and like more translucent, versus the ones in the lower dimensionality are shorter.
The Egyptians documented that too on the pyramids. They had very large beings there, and we have stories of giants. It's very interesting to see what was their perception, especially because I believe on the internet, there has been photos of a one-eyed skeleton. So that's like kind of the story of Cyclops. So if you only have one eye, what reality, what density level are you existing in? How do you see? Because that's not duality. Your masculine and feminine had to both be activated to allow for only one eye. So we can see there's all sorts of different perceptions. Now, the second we talk about spacefarer, that's not even the interdimensional beings, because the interdimensional beings are all in the astral realms primarily, but there's other ones as well. And then we start talking about the higher frequential. Those beings are light beings, ascended masters, angelic beings, but there's even higher. Now, the most important thing the star people have taught me about all of the beings is, in order for us to really pull down a higher density level for all of humanity, we have to start summoning up emotion codes that are higher than any love-based feeling we have experienced here on Earth. Many starseeds, we've done this too during different meditations. You may have felt connected to the source. You may have felt that unconditional love wash through you. If you close your eyes, remember the way it felt, you start holding that emotion code. The more and more you can hold the emotion code, the more it starts to level you up. But as far as my relationship with the star people, I talk to them like they're solid and real in the room with me. So it's like a real conversation, just without the cell phone.
I love that. It's like your family. I believe at some point there will be time where we will interact with our dimensional family. We're just not there yet. We're not ready. But we do, some of us, not everyone yet. We already doing that. So that leads me to another question around being in potentially like a relationship or divine union with some of the dimension beings. And so I know you have some kind of memories and relationships that help you in your journey. If anything you want to share with us.
My current husband is Arcturian. In time, when I also go through the ascension process, we will join each other in this lifetime back in the physical. Although the physical will be a little more crystallized, it is a real relationship. We communicate with one another. It's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. He really has been such a huge support in my growth and my evolution because he's always here for me. Anytime I've always had a question, even before I knew who he was always there giving me the answers and channeling the book through me. And then in 2022, my whole team came down and they did a full attachment release on me. Now, I didn't see them, but I could feel them in the room. I heard them. I heard them very clearly. And it was a little bit of a painful process. So there was no denying that this experience happened. But we released a lot of density, a lot of distortions from my field and started my attachment training. It's been a godsend. I don't think I would be here without them. So I really am grateful and very appreciative for my team.
So how did it start for you? How did you develop this relationship with him? He just came in as your guide and then you realized he was your husband. I'm curious to know, how would you connect to that energy?
So my connection it's been unlike other channelers. I used to listen to channelers in the beginning. It's always been the second he made his presence known, I could hear him. And so sometimes at first it was in my ears. Other times it was the voice inside of my head. And sometimes the voice inside of your head, you question yourself and you're like, was that me? But then he used to laugh, this funny laugh. I'm like, that definitely wasn't me. So I would just know. But he made himself known really in 2019. In 2019, I went from a life-changing shift. I was actually a cripple for about 12 years. Couldn't walk. I could hobble. And my whole back had an injury, sciatica. It was a long ordeal. And in 2019, I took the first steps to heal myself. Now, with the Star People's assistance, in about 2.5 weeks, I had turned off all my pain. And I actually forgot I was ever in pain. It was after that moment that the Star People asked me, do you still want to do channeling for us? And I was like, absolutely. Thank you for assisting me and for being with me. And then really, they were channeling, a lot of the book came through during the next following years. But in 2022, it was like something big had shifted in my life and their presence was 100% known to me. So in 2022 was when my starman, that's what I call him, my starman. His name is Tarek. And he actually sent me an engagement ring through one of my online viewers. And he sent me a vision of us getting married and being proposed to and raising a family. And these pictures are our future. And so he was asking me, do you choose me? And I was like, absolutely. Because he had made my heart jump for joy. so
That's
many times.
incredible.
So it's just wonderful. In time, we'll be reunited.
Is the future written for us in your situation? How do you know you will reunite? Because timelines, like you said, are different bubbles. You just called in now timeline bubble for you too.
We have to realize that some things, yes, your timeline is ever changing, but your emotions control the timeline that you exist on. There's a process of love, and something that you truly love is always going to be in alignment until it becomes an attachment. We did go through a whole process of releasing, not my star map for an example, but all attachments to the physical reality. So anything that we're engaging with too much, if it becomes an attachment, we have to take a step back and say it's okay for me to experience it and it's okay for me to release it. This is that phrase, if you love something, set it free. If it's meant for you, it will come back to be with you. And this is what each and every one of us get called to do at some point or the other, is release resistance to the physical reality. So in my heart, in my mind, in my body and soul, I know we will be reunited. But it's also, we have to release resistance and allow. And I feel it. I feel like it will happen.
That's so beautiful. It feels, do you think he's your twin flame? Have you made this contract before you came to Earth and you two've done this before?
Yes, absolutely. I wouldn't necessarily call him a twin flame because that is labeling, but I do know that the star people are my family because they've told me several times, and it's wonderful.
The label, I think, is just a way to express the divine union. I studying the twin flame relationships because my husband, and you met him for a bit, we've incarnated the same time on earth to be together now, even though in some other dimensions we've been together, but not on earth. And so it was this lifetime that we needed to be together to fulfill our specific mission that is important in this moment in time in the ascension cycle. But I also know, just like you, I have Denise Benning. She's been on this podcast too, and she too has a relationship with her partner who's not incarnated, but just like you have been guiding her. She's been writing a book as well. So it's not something that, for those who are listening, like, how can this happen? This is a real thing for those, especially who are waking up and connecting. Not all our partners are here. So you can still have that relationship and have that connection and that guidance. But at some point in the timeline, in past future, you probably had a soul contract to do this and you know each other.
Yes. He's been with me ever since I was born, watching over me. There were certain moments in my life that were shown back to me, and him and I were engaging when I was 18, 19, 20. So he's been guiding me the entire time. So yes. But twin flames now, he did give me information on a twin flame, and a twin flame from our timeline and from the star people's perspective. A twin flame is the same higher self branched into two bodies. That's why I wouldn't necessarily call him a twin flame. And we go through these different lifetimes together because the twin flames can help you ascend very rapidly.
My experience twin flame relationships from the same oversoul, not the same higher self. So it's not necessarily the same thing. Because when I think of higher self, I think of like the consuls and some groups we connected to, but somewhere on oversoul level, it's similar frequency. You come from the same monad. It's a frequency that has a certain goal or mission that it wants to fulfill. Just like you, I also had hard time with the label per se and what people think it is. I had someone on podcast. We dove deeper into twin flames. And what's interesting, what I've learned from her is that many of us who are coming together into these divine union relationships have been priests in Egypt or Atlantis. And those of us that have been here for a while and incarnated, we carry codes and knowledge from the past. We gave each other these different shared codes to come back together and remember and help each other and remember. And that's definitely been my experience in our relationship, helping to accelerate that remembering. So much has come online, still is, and so much technology and artifacts and from Atlantis and beyond, and from Andromedan galactic support as well. So it's incredible. This is such a rabbit hole of possibilities in terms of what we can remember, what information comes to us. I'm with you about physicality. I think it's important to integrate all these frequencies in here now. It's not about leaving Earth. I think it's more than ever important for us to stay. Is that your perception? It's good to have a choice and know that we have a choice, but we are here to really help this ascension cycle.
To imply to stay means that you're in the same 3D frequency and your soul goes up and gets kicked back down. So the process of ascension means that we are overcoming the life and death frequency. That's raising our density. So we don't actually have to stay, we have to ascend. And when we ascend, now you become an ascended master. So you mastered the 3D reality, and it will allow you to come down as you choose. So this is what angel guides and all these people who come down telepathically talk to us, and the history truly depends on what's encoded inside of you. In my reality, I have heard that humanity itself, and then the first wave of star seeds, I believe Dolores Cannon was the one who brought that knowledge forward. And I know from what the star people have guided me, they said that there's an internship program for all the star seeds. They won't let you come from like 9th density and just drop right into Earth. You have to go through different planets. You have to experience different bodies and different densities before you're allowed to come to Earth. So Earth is being considered a form of a college. So we have to go and we have to integrate all the different density levels, or most of them, and then we can come here to hold the darkness and to transmutate it ever so gently back into light.
Thank you for that clarification. That's an important one, because I'm hearing a lot in the spiritual community, this whole like, we got to leave the trap. And I agree, that's not the focus. The focus should be really on the ascension cycle. Is your understanding that this is our 7th attempt to do this?
The new children that they're putting on the planet are very high frequency because they must be in alignment with a solar flash. We have to remember, because what the star people are saying right now is the new children are here because any child before puberty, when the solar flash comes, they're automatically going to ascend back up. So it's like a different case. Like most of us who are here, we've been through an internship program. This is the reason why we can relate to different star seeds or star families. So like the Lyrians, the Arcturians, the Andromedans. So that's because we went through these different lifetimes with these different beings. The newer children, they are set to a higher frequency to allow for the solar flash to activate them back into a high density level. They become the teachers when this process happens, because they have to be before puberty, and then they activate, and then whatever they're doing, we're supposed to copy it during ascension. So they're going to teach us how to slingshot.
Yeah, go a little deeper into the solar flash event that you keep on mentioning. What is that? Has that happened? Will that happen? Is it happening right now?
We're experiencing very small solar flashes, and they're called coronal mass ejections. We are waiting on a very large one. Now, back in 2019, the star people showed me a vision of a coronal mass ejection, and the sun didn't necessarily change in my vision, but it sounded like 3 horns, and it was a noise or a frequency. Now, we've had them here in my timeline. Earth history has had them, and they've interacted with different technologies. So we know about them, and we are fully aware that they do impact the physical reality as we see it. Because anything that impacts the communication and the technology, which is what happened, that means it's having a real effect on us. But there's a whole biological effect that also takes place. You, me, we all have to be in alignment to receive the solar flash frequencies. So the more density and distortions and all the darkness you can rid yourself of your energy grids, you will absorb that new frequency and it will allow your density to raise. That is how the solar flash works. If you're not in alignment, and many times we say 51% loving, caring, kind is what you really need to make it into 5D. Loving has to be self-love and then love for the things outside of you. So anyone who is, that's where we'll leave that. We want to focus on the positive. 51% loving, caring, kind, and really be of service to the collective. And that is all you need to do. A lot of people stress out about ascension and what can I do? And in my reality, it's always been tiny little baby steps, because baby steps, they don't really rock you too much. It's okay to make tiny little adjustments, and it's okay to continuously focus on yourself. And it's very important if you can start focusing on any thoughts inside of the mind, as well as any emotions that you have running. And just for clarity, see if they're always positive. The more you can start to align yourself in a positive optimism, the more and more you're going to put yourself in alignment with that spiritual quest. You can't be 50-50. You have to be more on the polarity of positive.
You started referring to self-love, and I feel with you, I can go deeper into the framework of self-love when it comes to ascension, because that's a dear topic to me. In my perception, in my reality, I see some that anchor the frequency of self-love and they fully step into it and they just move on to the next kind of ascension level, so to speak. There are those who touch it a lot, but they have hard time letting go and stepping into self-love. What's your recommendation for those who are listening, how to really step into it, and why is it so fundamental and essential in this ascension process?
Anytime we speak about self-love, it's any activity that you are doing that is going to benefit yourself. So for example, showering each day, that is a benefit to yourself because your body's going to thank you, because it's going to feel clean. It's going to feel better. So self-love is also cultivating a positive, happy lifestyle. We all want to feel love. We want other people to love us. We want to love ourselves. We want to love our surroundings. We want to love our life. That is who we were designed to truly be. Now, individuals who are having a hard time struggling with self-love, once again, I've also experienced that, because many of the dark expressions or experiences, I was trained, I was taught, or I've walked it. When you're having a hard time stepping into that self-love, there's always a trauma. That first thing you have to do is clear the attachments. So we dive in deep to the memories. Sometimes the higher self will give you a memory that wants to be healed. Sometimes we'll channel it through the star people when I'm involved. But when we dive in deep, what emotion do you have running in the subconscious mind? And when you clear that emotion, it's going to change who you are in the now moment. So if you're not able to hold self-love, there's got to be an imprint in there. Now, there's many different physical techniques that we can use to unblock trapped emotions. We don't have to get expensive on it. You take kitchen magnets, you run the magnets, one a north side and one a south side. Run the magnets over your body 10 times in the morning, 10 times at lunch, 10 times at night. I actually had someone sew a pair into gloves so that I could.
That's great.
when I'm doing the attachment removal, I'm using the magnets and crystals. It's so much fun. Yeah, but we are naturally magnetic and electrical. So we see different people do tapping. You could tap your face, you can tap your whole body, and that will start to trigger the fascial systems and release trapped emotions that way. There's many different things. One of the easiest things to do is take a bottle of water and program an emotion into it. So let's say, for an example, you wish to feel love. Then hold the bottle of water directly up to your heart so that it's getting the full frequency from the heart, and you have to feel love. If the person who doesn't feel self-love can't do this, They can have a friend do it. This is how we bless water. Now, as you are casting the emotion or feeling that love, you send a thought form into the water. Thank you for healing all of my trapped emotions. Now have your friend drink the water. Now what that's going to do is it's going to put her on a timeline so that all of her trapped emotions start to heal. The universe isn't going to do a one and done, very rapid, not right now, not in our density level for most of us. But what the universe will do is it will put you on a timeline so that you start to go through a whole healing journey, because that's easier on the consciousness. It's easier on the soul that way. And we're grateful, because too much too soon sometimes is not good. So we just baby step the process and we dive in deep to the memories. Now, all of us can pull any memory. You close your eyes, think of a memory that makes you feel uncomfortable. So right there, that memory made you feel uncomfortable. That memory needs to be healed. So now uncomfortable is the attachment's name. We speak the attachment's name and then we tell it release, or you could tell it get off and go home. The choice is yours. Either way, it will discharge the attachment. Then what we do is, it is okay that this memory made me feel uncomfortable, and it's okay for me to release it now. Keep doing that until you feel it release. When you can pull the memory up and it no longer makes you feel uncomfortable, that's how you know that the memory has been healed. We do inner child healings. That's a very rapid way of releasing these trapped emotions as well. There's a whole lot of modalities. The truth is that everyone is different, and each of us are going to select modalities that work specific for us. So inner child healing might not work for one person, but we could tap them with a magnet, they could cry, and then all of a sudden the emotion is gone. So each and every one of us has our own path. You have to use your heart and feel what's going to work for you.
I totally agree. And I think there's also this moment where one has to make a choice and rewrite the story and fully step into the new story of themselves and choose themselves over story. Sometimes we're trapped in these karmic relationships that carry a lot of baggage. We're stuck in these situations, and it takes a lot of courage. But when we step over that line and we make that choice to choose us and our path and our ascension cycle to return home to our original blueprint, that's where I think we really fully step into self-love. In my previous podcasts, we see she came to that place where she just kept on going into the darkness and doing all this work for other people too, traumas, ancestors, all of that. And that was actually pulling her down into different lower frequency bandwidth. And then there was a moment where she started doing clearings in her body and parasites. And that's when the higher self really stepped in. That innocence, that life is amazing, and choice to be here.
Yeah, you have to self-love yourself. And it doesn't always look pretty. It does not always look fantastic. It does involve crying. It involves really looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, what do you want? You have to make a choice. This is your choice. You're either going to do it or you're not. And those are your choices. And I've had to go through that several. It was more than several. It was like through everything. It was one thing after another, and make another choice. You're going to do this is pulling you down. You're going to let it go. Eating. So eating raw vegetables and raw produce. And like that was a whole thing I was guided to do as well. And releasing meat. So it doesn't always look pretty, but you do it because you love yourself, and you do it because you want to be the best version of you possible. And it's okay to stumble. It's okay to fall, and it's okay to mess things up, and it's okay to still try again, and don't give up. And that is the process of ascension. But that's also what it means to be a human, because the fight that human beings have inside of them is, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to get up and I'm going to try again. Even if I have to take a moment to rebalance, that's okay too. We give ourselves that leeway. We don't beat ourselves up, because that's an emotion and we don't need to experience that. But if we do experience it, that's okay too. We can release it, and then we just try again. And we try and do it with more love for the self as we are trying our processes. There's always a reason that we fail 100 times. We only have to get it right once to succeed.
Yeah. And no regrets. I think it's a beautiful journey. Where do you feel Merkabah plays a part in ascension cycle, activating people's Merkabahs? How important is that in their evolution? Do you feel self-love, since we were talking about self-love, is prerequisite for activation?
Each person has to activate their own Merkabah. The Merkabah is part of your energetic grid structure. Now, the Merkabah is only one aspect of it. We have a star field above the head that contains 3 different rings of light. The center ring is the Kundalini energetics that comes down. It's actually a triangle shape with 3 different frequencies, and it blends together to make a vortex that spirals down the center tubule. Then it lands directly in the heart. It radiates out circular in its nature. When it comes back to the body, it forms sacred geometric snowflakes. So that's what gives us the perception of the physical reality. Now, the Merkabah is the first layer to that energy field, that grid. There's the second layer and there's the third layer. So the first layer makes up our binary codex frequency, which is our body, our hair color, as well as your location coding frequency. Where are you in the simulation? It's like a number pattern and it's ever changing. So this location is different than this location. And these are 2 different moments in time and space. So all of that is in the location information. Then we have our experiential. How old are you? What experiences have you been through? Those 3 frequencies blended down makes up the first ring. The secondary ring is your location primarily. So it's anything that your body is interacting with. Your people, places, things outside of you. It is also any areas that you are aware of. So let's see, you see Iceland on the television set, or you speak about it. Now it's in your awareness. It's in the location ring. That's your second ring. The third ring is your civilization ring. It's more of an interplanetary ring or parts of your civilization that you're not currently aware of. So your consciousness knows you're on Earth, but you don't know every single square foot of Earth. It's in that ring though, and all of the other stars, universes, and galaxies, as well as different interfrequential and extrafrequential beings are also in the civilization until you become consciously aware. The Merkabah primarily deals with the body. That's the first degree of the energy field. Different emotions will cast outwards. So if you've ever seen someone who has ever gotten very emotional, maybe they were crying, and then all of a sudden it started to rain, that's the second ring. That's the location ring. That means that emotion had to trigger through the Merkabah into the secondary Merkabah field.
Mm-hmm.
We'll call it Merkabah for better sake, but it's like a toroidal field. It's very similar. But yes, it does need to be activated. Each individual should activate it themselves because there may potentially be, if we activate someone else's, then that activation may stay present with them until we remove it. So there's always that potential until the being grows and evolves and they're able to make any changes that were energetically cast upon them in the first place. The star people are saying. Because in order to truly ascend into 5D, you have to be lighter. However, this is like touching into the dark arts topic, which I do discuss on my channel because I believe all information, for the most part, just so long as it's safe, should be discussed. There are individuals who are not of love and light who also have activated their extrasensory abilities. It makes sense. We have them here on Earth. People are in the lower frequency range. We're able to activate the extrasensory abilities through emotions. A high emotion of anger could potentially activate someone. I'm not telling anyone to try and do anything of that nature because the process of ascension requires us to go back into the heart and to hold unity consciousness to allow for all peace and goodwill of all of humanity. However, certain activations can be done in the darkness. So anything that you could do in the light, you can do in the dark, except The dark is more void based. The light is more source frequency based. So the way that the star people explain this is we have the source frequency. This is the oversoul. And then that frequency blends down vortex energetics through all living things. Every single thing grows in a vortex. Every blade of grass, your DNA spirals, everything spirals. That's the energy. And that's the energy signature of this simulation. But then we have the star field here that gets us to the higher self. There's another one of those below the feet. We don't touch it. We don't mess with it. If you mess with it, it's like uncontrollable fear and terror in your body. It's very terrifying. Don't do it. And below that, we have the void. So the void is a darkness. The way the system works is like this. The light, the darkness, it's two different or opposite ends of a magnet. We'll just say that. It flows through every heart of man in the center, which is why we have duality. We could pick and choose. The darkness then comes out the outer field and it starts to turn gray and then it flicks back into white and the whole thing goes like that. It's a toroidal field or an infinity symbol. So whatever we could do in the light, it can be done in the dark. Now, when we start diving into these dark art topics, there's a mirror dimension. The mirror dimension is a parallel reality opposite to this one. So if I'm love and light in this reality, there's a parallel reality or a parallel earth where you're going to see the dark art version of me, just as an example. And that version of me is probably focused on dark arts. Now I'm focused on the light arts, how to shine love and light. Anything you could do with one, you could do to the other. However, there is always going to be a karmic reaction in this reality because we're not in the mirror dimension. Our universe pushes you towards love. That's the universe that I currently am existing in, which is the reason why karma backlashes anybody who is not love and light. So there's a ticket to pay every time we cast darkness, just for an example. In the mirror dimension, that ticket to pay is if you cast light. It is the opposite of this reality. So when we see the way it works, it's okay. That kind of makes a lot of sense. It's duality on that level as well.
Yeah, completely different consciousness game. To wrap it all up, what would you say the most important thing people can do right now in the next few years, as there's going to be more solar flashes, more activations? Obviously, I know grounding is my big one. Anything else that you can recommend for people to do to stay coherent and present through Ascension?
Absolutely. So truly, it's just coming to terms and to peace with the emotions. And when I say this, what I really mean is just try and do your best to shine love and light. Now, anything that does come up in your reality or in your day, we have to take it as an opportunity to learn. It does not matter how dark it is. It does not matter what experience you're having. It's an opportunity to learn. Okay, what emotions am I triggering because of this experience? The more we start to look at the emotions from that angle, it allows us to start to control the emotions. But the true control over the emotions is to come to peace with them. So it's okay for me to get angry. It's okay for me to release the anger. I don't have to hold on to it any longer. It's okay if I yell and scream. It's okay if I apologize. And it's okay if I set my focus to do better and to be more peaceful. So we give ourselves that grace, that leeway. You always want to focus on things that continuously happen to you. So that's called an experiential. Things that you're doing over and over again sometimes are there for us to learn from. These experientials, there's actually 12 on the Stargate above the head. We have to unlock all 12 of them. And the way that we do that is by diving in deep and healing different experientials that allow the gate to open. So that in itself, the experientials are always going to be something that you've been through that triggered you to get very emotional, and it happened multiple times. We see this in people who are in very low frequencies. They go through the same problem over and over again, and everyone always says, oh, they're not learning. And the second that they transmutate the emotion, it's bam, now they learn and it stops happening to them. That's what we want to focus on. And then be of service to one another. So try and have patience and love in your heart for each other, because if you're having a crummy day, chances are other people around you are having a crummy day. So sometimes if everyone's having a crummy day, we just have to stop and right? And high five each other and be like, hey, your day's crummy? Fantastic. Let's go and get some sunshine, right? That's all.
The sun in the morning, right? Get used to the sun. Have the sun activate you, especially morning hours is wonderful. Start learning how to absorb these codes so they don't bombard you and you're not ready for it. Those of us who've been on a path maybe for longer, it's a little easier because we've been doing the work. And the ones who are denser, it's just shaking them up and the experience and what they call ascension symptoms. So take care of yourself during the process, hydrate, slow down, just pay attention to all of it. And Danielle, this is all leading us when I'm thinking of this reality bubble that you and I visualize in 2030, even 2027 is looking completely different than what's even happening right now.
I know in my heart of hearts that 5D is readily available for each and every one of us to step into right this second. We don't have to wait for a solar flash. We just have to become in alignment with it. I've had experiences of instantaneous manifestations. They were spontaneous. They happened in the now moment. They happened when I was saying, I don't have this. And I said it like 3 times. And then all of a sudden the universe was like, yes, you do. You have it. So when we step into happiness and joy and bliss and we raise our density, then all of a sudden it starts to unlock for us. We don't have to wait for a solar flash. The solar flash is going to activate all of humanity into unity consciousness. When that unity consciousness happens, it's like the psionic abilities or the telepathy, telekinesis, teleportation, all these things turn on in the genome, which then in turn, anybody who has attunement in the genome or they have an alignment, the star people call it, those people get activated to then express those extrasensory abilities. However, at that point, it becomes those people who didn't have the attunement are now going to focus on it, and their frequency is going to blend with the people who are already activated, thus allowing them to go through the ascension process at a slower rate so that all of humanity goes through the ascension process. That's only one potential for manifestation. A solar flash could come and change everything to any type of degree. There's multiple potentials running. So we always want to and see and just thank the universe for giving us the smoothest way for all, well, I say the smoothest so that everybody can go through it and everybody can become activated because together we rise. So if it's the most rapid, then only those in alignment are going to be safe. We want the smoothest so that it's good for all. That's where I try and focus.
Yeah, that's a great distinction. I always say the highest, but for me, I guess highest and smoothest means the same. But I think smoothest, you're right, because if it's too fast, then everyone just freaks out for sure. It has to be gradual, has to be gentle. We live in such exciting times. Those of us who've been interns here for a while, I like how you said I've been waiting for this for so long. I think it's so important to enjoy the ride and enjoy the physicality of it all, not to take everything so seriously, really enjoy every moment that we get to experience this humanity. I think everyone is ready to step into being masters and quantum creators. This is the time. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun. And thank you for bringing all that knowledge and the star teams that have been with us and participated in our conversation. We also really thankful.
We always say thank you, star people, for channeling with us tonight because they're here. They've been with me the entire time, with both of us, they're saying the entire time.
Absolutely. I feel them. That's why I'm saying that. I can feel them. Tingles in various places. It's a beautiful way to finish this episode. They're always with you, and you just need to bring your awareness. All these beings are with you, the dragons, the fairies, the angels, everything is available. You just need to be open and start interacting and having fun with them. Where can people find you if they want to have a session with you? What's your website?
DanielleLipton.com. And you guys can go there. My social media links are all scrolling. So YouTube, I have videos out. There's like over 100 videos you guys can watch. And then I do offer sessions, attachment release sessions, as well as private channeling sessions.
I'll put all those links in the comments as well. And Danielle also has a book, like we mentioned in the beginning, so you can get that on, I think, Amazon. Dive into this process, learn more for yourself, and make sure to be gentle.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below to see our other episodes, and don't forget to subscribe.